Hi people, welcome to Bouquet Jazz Dance, welcome to the Dance Lab. One of the key things I want to share with people is simply, it's just not cricket. What's happening now, people have to wear masks 24/7, and if you don't wear masks, what happens is you get discriminated against. You'll hear me talk a lot about the mask and the significance, and talking about before I didn't wear the mask I was discriminated against 24/7. If I don't wear the mask, I'm discriminated against, and what happens, you can physically see people down the streets panicking when you see people in masks of my colour. Let's get this clear. That's what's happening right at the moment. The society's created these stereotypes about black people that were untrue, and people grow up not meeting black people and assume stereotypes exist. Talk in 2005, going to university to 2009 in the city of Oxford, 1 in 5 is a student, and it's amazing how people have a lot of stereotypes about black people, especially Jamaicans. I'm half Jamaican. Individuals come to me, associate me just being Jamaican. I say, well, that's not the truth. Basically, my dad's Jamaican, or my former father, my dad's gone now. He was Jamaican and mum's Grenadian. Yeah, and the stereotypes that people have, first stereotypes, we drink, drugs and all that. I don't do any of them things. So, violence, what are you talking about? People forget that we have a spiritual nature, and it's not nothing that they forget, it's just that they've been taught to have negatives. So I want to share something very important in respect, and I say it's just not cricket, about people having stereotypes about Jamaican parents, West Indian parents. Dr. Colonel West is one of my icons because he's like me, very much into academic study. He's into providing independent thinking knowledge around culture, and I do so around UK Jazz Dance. UK Jazz Dance is a commercial term for a number of UK undergraduates' lifestyles, movements and cultures. And I'm from the north of England. North of England, totally different culture altogether. We had a prolific UK Jazz Dance underground culture, and it was a smaller part of bigger cultures, which is many people forget. I was dancing not only to jazz, but soul, disco, funk, reggae, R&B, ska, calypso, contemporary dance music, experimental contemporary dance, all at the same time. And what happens when it's presented, UK Jazz has been presented to the world, it's like you got the studios and this has got a class in UK Jazz Dance. It never happened like that. I was going to a club and dancing to a wide genre of music in the clubs, and I was dressing to all these music. So you understand, in my community that was a social dance. That's no longer a social dance. UK Jazz Dance or UK Underground is no longer a social dance in the Manchester now. It's like a folk dance. It's something that you show individuals. This is what happened back in the day. But back in the day, many different dance styles were happening, and I was a trailblazer of all these dance styles. Yeah? And I want to share with individuals, one of the key icons is Dr. Colonel West. And what happens is, many people stereotype UK Jazz, UK underground styles, lifestyle, cultures, movements. And one of the incentives for it was all dayers, all nighters and weekenders. These were the World Cup of this dance, and they were part of bigger movements. Soul, disco and funk was the one mainly in the heart of the white community. But in our community, West Indian community, it was part of reggae, part of ska, part of rock steady, part of soul, disco, funk, hip-hop, house. We always kept adding music forms to it. And I wanted to share with people information on my parents. My dad was born in 1935. He died in 2016, very devastating for me, of cancer of the blood, very suddenly. He told he had a clean bill of health and he left. My dad came into this world and he faced nothing but discriminations and hardships. His father did, his mother did, and he wanted to make a change for me, and he did make a change. He worked in America from 55 to 61, and in 61 he flew here from Jamaica. He came here to work here. Okay, it's important. And I want to share with you, my mum came here in 61. She never went anywhere else. She'd been in her country, both born into impoverished circumstances, never got an opportunity to get an high school education. But they came with a thirst for knowledge, very conscientious. And I want to say with some words that Dr. Colonel West used for an album he did called Never Forget. He talked about his reasons for making an album, spoken word album. My parents came to this country, they were politically alert. They wanted to see the end of colonialization. So my dad came here in 61, within a year, he saw the end of colonialization. In 1962 for Jamaica, that's when they first got their own flag. My mum didn't get it to 1975, but she wanted to see the end of colonialization. So they made me politically alert and my family politically alert. They introduced us to dance, music, education. Why? Because that led us to be musically sophisticated, because black music, West Indian music, was made from politics. West Indian music was ways to relieve us, to rehabilitate us, to heal us from the trauma that we've been through. So one of the key things was my parents sent me to black summer schools, black Saturday schools, which was to re-educate us about our acts of achievement in Britain and acts of achievement around the world, what West Indians have done and great African Americans. And in respect to that, music was hugely, arts, performing arts, visual arts was very important in respect to it. My parents came into this world and they introduced us to culture to make us morally mature. My parents were morally mature, they were politically aware, they were into dance education as a part of healing themselves as Indians. Most importantly, my parents were courageous thinkers. They were independent thinkers, my parents. My father had his own ideas, my mum had her own ideas about how they viewed education. So my dad was Jamaican and my mum was Grenadian. They both gave me a separate early learning and a similar early learning. I learned from them the importance of being politically alert. So I came into this world pro-black. I wrote down some key things that what happens. My parents were into what is called Black is Beautiful. That was promoting the best of their culture as a black people. My parents were pro-black. That means promoting the positive elements of it, rethinking, redressing, this challenging stereotypes. And where they challenged stereotypes, first and foremost, was from their dress. The dress was a statement of who they were, because West Indians were identified as tramps. People who were cultured, and how did you show your culture morally? How do you show your culture politically? You showed it through what? You showed it through the clothes that you wore. Now, I'm here at the moment, I'm practicing wearing a mask for cricket. Cricket is politics in the Caribbean. It was a game that was identified, a game for gentlemen. It was identified as a game where you need to be sophisticated in your outlook in life. It's a game where you have to have good concentration, a game where you have to have knowledge, experience and skills to play this game. It tests your positive mental attitude, tests your concentration, tests your patience, tests your skill level. My dad taught me cricket. He taught me to be an all-rounder. He was an all-rounder himself. He taught me to be an all-rounder, and he taught me to be a captain. And what happened was, I was the first ever young person at 8 years old to be the best cricketer in his primary school. So I played for the 8 years old, the 9 years old, 10 years old and 11 years old. And I did that for all sports when Dad made me athletic. But cricket, more than anything else, was political. Football wasn't political in the same way as cricket in the Caribbean, because it's a Caribbean game. And it's quite ironic when individuals come to me, they have stereotypes about the games that, what type of activities I involved myself in. And I said that cricket was a guaranteed thing that was involved in athletics. So these are jazzy sports. As I said to you, UK jazz dance, UK is a commercial term for UK undergrad dance lifestyles, movements and cultures. What was a lifestyle? Playing cricket for me was part of the lifestyle. doing athletics was part of the lifestyle. Studying great cricket players, studying great athletic players from the West Indies, Caribbean. For example, 1936, Jesse Owens in sports was political because of what happened. So sports has always been important for blacks because blacks have been identified as not sophisticated, or because of what Hitler said, the Aryan race have supposed to be the most sophisticated people athletically. Well, Jesse Owens proved that not the case, didn't he? So to us, sports is not seen as something that we take for jokes. It's something that we use as an opportunity to show our courage, to show our skill level, to show our self-discipline, because he had to be self-disciplined to win 4 gold medals, to show our talents. And one of the most important, it was natural talent. That's what he broke. He won 4 gold medals, never been done before. He proved it wasn't just natural talent, because what happened, wider codes always try to make blacks just fluke, it's just natural talent. And they have this physical ability that it just come naturally built to run races. Well, that's not how races are run. Do you understand? As individual cricket's the same. You can't win the game naturally. You have to put in years of work. Do you understand? Years of work, just like dance. So this is my pictures here, and these pictures show you that I'm an advanced dance leader, and years of work have gone into it, and it led to me doing a project. I created it called Rebirth of the Cool. It's called Birth of the Cool. Rebirth of the Cool talks about my acts of achievement in dance. I was a clumsy child, but politically alert. I was a clumsy child, and my parents told me dancing, will teach you something about being sophisticated. Dancing will improve your health, your well-being, your coordination as an individual. Dancing will make you morally mature. Because what happened, wider cultures try to identify their dances make you more mature, but ours don't. Dance will make you courageous, make you an independent thinker. And the art form I chose was jazz dancing, UK underground jazz dancing, UK underground jazz dance, which led me to involve myself in a wide range of dances that improved my courage, my thinking and development. For example, ballet was one. I was told black people can't do ballet. That was a fabrication. In 1976, I met the Dance Free of Harlem. Doing demonstration, I went to meet them as a prize for being the best dancer in my school. I was the best Irish dancer in my school, best British and European folk dancer people. I was the best creative dancer, and I was a leading, unbeaten freestyle disco champion in my school. And what happens was, there's no other males could dance like me in my school. That was one. I learned Irish dance from the Irish girls, and we swapped ideas with dances. I showed them my dances, but I was better than the females in my school. And that led to prizes every year. And the prize in 1976 in the Astley School was called Meet the Dance Free of Harlem, who gave us a lecture demonstration at the Palace Theatre. Amazing situation. And one of the key things, I came back from there with a program. You get a program, and they signed it. What happened to me, challenges happened in my school, which was you had bullies, you had people who were jealous of my abilities, which were worked for. They stole my program, and they ripped it into pieces. So I didn't have the Dance Free of Harlem pictures. I didn't have their signatures from them, no more. And this is something I went through as a dancer, and I wanted to share with people. Rebirth of the Cool talks about experiences I've had as a dancer, as a black dancer. Some of them experiences recently from 2009 to 13, I had negative experiences with commercial DJs that treated me. One went on to threaten to break my legs and break my family's legs after I instigated a project to get photographs in his club. Boom, I created a dance and health project. It was a massive one, and it was part of Rebirth of the Cool also, but this project was around dance and health. I got sepsis, blood poisoning, and I wanted to show individuals the journey of my healing and what I went through, because I got 10 different types of illnesses because my immune system went down. I identified this to key people. I want to do this in your club. Can I come video? I want to talk about dance and health, because there was a resurgence of UK jazz dance at that time, and this DJ had come back out who had been off the scene, and he himself had mental health issues. So I wanted to incorporate him. What did this music do for you? How has it benefited you having a focus? How's having music as a focus, how has it helped you as an individual in sense of your mental health? I wanted to really have these deep conversations with him. He was agreed that these things could take place. And what happened was a lot of photographs got done. People took the photographs. I said they could use them for publicity, but I'm going to have an exhibition, you cannot sell them. The first photographer for this organizer, for this DJ, he took the photographs and set up a secret site selling my photographs on it. I caught him, kept it in-house, told them. They were supposed to sort it out. We didn't see that photographer again. He just hid from me. I wanted to negotiate my photographs and how they were used, because part of the work, why I went back to university, was to get the knowledge and skills to work in the commercial industries, which is fiercely competitive, but I need to say is fiercely ruthless. And who are very ruthless are photographers. Who are very ruthless are journalists. Who are very ruthless are filmmakers. Who are very ruthless are visual artists, because they all can make money, and fashion designers can make money from dancers. This is my part. This is my mood wall here. For a while in London, when I was at Oxford, I had to hide my clothes, or certain clothes, clubs I would go to, example Dingwalls. I never wore vintage clothes, because that was a prime place where photographers and filmmakers went for their projects. Established, emerging and advanced filmmakers, visual artists, they went there, used the club as a ground to get photographs of people at their own style, because these were revival events that we went to, yeah, and start to make and then chose people to make a subject for their projects. I refused to wear the clothes. In 2007, I went to Dingwalls. I'm not wearing no vintage clothes. Again in 2010, I'm not wearing no vintage clothes when I go to Dingwalls. Wear vintage clothes, I wear it in 2015 when I go there. And I tell a friend of mine, you know, I want to get photographs. He says, I'll get photographs for you. So the first time I get photographs and actually access to a video from Dingwalls is actually in 2015. Amazing story. 2007 couldn't have tried to. 2010 couldn't. And I was going to places in London which I wasn't wearing my vintage clothes, because I wanted to do my own project, which is very cool, showing people my lifestyle. I told you, UK jazz dance is a commercial term for UK undergrad dance lifestyles. I'm a trailblazer of it. Movements, I'm a trailblazer of the movements. Cultures, I'm a trailblazer of the culture. Do you understand? I was a trailblazer of fashion, the way we lived, games, and I was the first person to officially talk about UK jazz dance, UK undergrad dance on the level that I'm talking lifestyle movement cultures in Europe and in the UK, talking about there's been a miseducation in UK jazz dance, because what happened, the commercial element was sold to the world. This is what's happened. This was the problem. The culture wasn't sold, the lifestyle wasn't sold, and the people that saw the culture just drew in it. Manchester had a unique culture, and it was avant-garde. I'm telling you, an incredible avant-garde, where every culture, every city merged into our city for all days, and a prolific all days. London came to Manchester all days. Further north, Scotland came to Manchester all days, and we went to their all days. Do you understand? The south of England came to our all days, and we went to their all days. But our city was an amazing 7-day-a-week city. You didn't have to leave the city. You didn't have to go to London, because London was in Manchester. Every week from 83 to 86, a club called Berlin on a Tuesday, London DJs, London record collectors used to come to a club every Tuesday, because of a DJ called Colin Curtis and Hugh Clark would play new music. They were like the Blue Note. They'll play new music you can't find. 83 to 86 people come from London, just travel. I'm not talking about dances yet. I'm talking about DJs, record collectors would come to that club because new music would be played. So I'm giving you the significance. And that point, 83 to 86, was at the highest point of the emergence of avant-garde music. Spiritual jazz was being played. bebop jazz is being played, connoisseur music you never even heard of was being played. Do you understand? You'd hear this club is renowned for it as an individual. We lost that club in '86 due to the ill health of the DJ, and it was lost eventually because the DJs that stood in for him were not capable of standing in. But that's another story, but it's important. I'm giving you understanding of this culture. I've been a trailblazer of it, and it's just not been cricket, because what happened was I came back to the north of England and people tried to block my story being told. A key book has been written by a southern writer. He had an objective, and the publisher had an objective to write out key players that were from the north of England that were trailblazers north, south, east and west of the UK. I'm one of them, and I was written out of a key book. My dance groups were written out of a key book. My brother was written out of a key book. My partners were written out of this key book. It was unacceptable. And the irony, I was aware this could happen from a debate that took place in 2003 at the South Bank in London, an international arena. They had the first debate. The debate was a mockery. Basically, it was created for the commercial guys to to raise their profile and prestige and status. I thought it was going to be a genuine debate, and I know it was going to be a genuine debate because what happened was I was the last representative in Manchester and the longest one. I wasn't invited to be in a panel, and other people from Nottingham were invited. People from Birmingham were invited. These were the key places where all days, all nighters and key clubs, and where key dancers had contributed to the world of UK jazz dance, lifestyle, cultures and movements. They weren't on it. So I knew from watching what I saw, there's going to be future writing on UK jazz dance. I'm going to be written out. But I was already writing behind the scenes. I was a lecturer. Behind the scenes, I was doing my own work, talking about jazz dance, young UK undergrad dance on an international scale, what's happened. The commercial world has been taught to you. You don't know that what happened was the parents have to be interviewed of the dancers, because the small steps of jazz came from the DNA of their parents, because my mum and dad danced to jazz. My dad was born in 1935. My mum was born in 1942. I tell people what happens is the UK jazz dance originals, they were politically alert. They were given a danceable education to make them musical sophisticated and introduced to the best music of the time, the blast radiation music. They were made to be morally mature. They were taught to have courageous thinking and learning. Why? Because they were taught to draw upon the values of bebop, cool and modern. What was that? To improvise, pushing the boundaries of your learning, thinking, development through exploration, through devising, through creating your own original way to learn, think and develop. And what happened is the commercial guys commercially taught UK jazz dance from a workshop class, from a studio perspective. This is not how it was taught. The dance was to create you to be an independent thinker. That's what our dance has always been, because the oppression in society was taken away from us having our own creative voice. And the whole idea is that you've got your own creative voice. Jazz is the voice of a free oppressed people saying, use my format and create your own voice. And what was happening, commercial guys were teaching, this is how it is. This step. So people didn't have their own independent thinking. So what you'd see when you see all the commercial dancers, all the people they taught, they all look the same. They're just like clones. And people have been given the movement, but what happens is they weren't given the classes. They weren't given the improvisational classes, the improvisational learning, thinking, and development, because there was a lot of learning, thinking, development. And that learning, development, and thinking started in the mother's womb. It started from the music that we heard, because we used the composition of the music. And then what happened was we bought albums, and on the back of the album, boom, we read what the music was about and what the creative forces were used in it. And secondly, most importantly, we heard the composition of the music. So we heard different albums had different type of creativity from independent thinking people. So I had thousands of albums, and other people had thousands of albums. People collected music to suit their styles. That's what it was about. For example, everybody has their own icons. My icon, my dad, my mum, my grandparents, my ancestors. My icon, Dr. Colonel West. My icon, Bessie Coleman, aviator. Icon, Bannerman. Bessie Coleman was the first African woman to get a license as a pilot. I wanted to be a pilot. So she came an icon to me. Bannerman came an icon in the 1900s. These individuals stepped out of their countries to go to France, save money, working hard, to go to France, left the country, to go to another country to study, and then came back to the country. Absolutely amazing willpower, tenacity, resilience to learn. And so my parents had that. They didn't have an education. My mum came here, she went to night school. She wasn't aware that she had special education needs. My dad came here, he worked hard in what he did. He went back to college. He didn't know he had dyslexia. So I grew up with the traumas that my parents had. I grew up with their special education needs, challenges that they had. They were unaware to that. Their gift to me was what they went through. Because what happens, the person with dyslexia, a person with special education needs, those who are creative, have creative parents who taught them to use creative ways, they'll develop coping strategies to overcome the struggles that they had. And I did that. Walking into university twice, ended up on a degree twice. First time, I did the first year, I did a dance performance certificate as a dancer, I did a foundation course, the teacher training. First time maybe full-time education, as in higher education, I did brilliantly from an perspective of as an individual who had been isolated in university. I had to create my own social needs. I was self-financing myself. I was very, very entrepreneurial when I went to what's called College Bedford, when it's Bedford College, to do, first of all, a foundation to sports and teacher training. I wanted to become a teacher. But that route was taken away from me as an individual. I went on to do a dance performance certificate, and then I went on to do the first year BSc, self-sustaining myself as a student, working about 5 jobs. I did exceptionally well. Where did I get that gift to endure? Where did I get the resilience from? And where did I get the tenacity from? Where did I get the staying power from? And resilience, I got it first and foremost from my parents that came here in '61 and went through a lot of extreme racism with a vision for their children and what they wanted to do for them. So that gave me tenacity. Then I was sent to black summer schools. I was sent to the Caribbean to learn how my parents survived, how my grandmother survived hardships, and to bring up 5 children as an individual and send them to England, 3 of them at least to England as an individual, as a mother, what she went through. So I learned again resilience. I learned tenacity. I learned something called persistence from my grandmother, how she went about what she did. I learned a positive mental attitude because she gave me a lot of positive mental attitude training. The key motto, my mum's family was, don't let disadvantages, don't let setbacks, don't let barriers, don't let hurdles be, don't let them be barriers to success. That's what I learned. Learn to hurdle them. So ironically, for example, I was a very clumsy person. I said to myself, for what I want to do, I want to be a better cricket player. I have to get rid of the clumsiness. I've learned to be coordinated. My dad said, boom, do these exercises, but dance will help you to be coordinated, son. Dance will help you to have the right attitude for cricket. And that's what I did. And so you start to realize, he said, cricket is a game like dancing. That's what it is. And I didn't think of it in them terms. But cricket is the game, you jump, you know what I'm saying? You use batting, you have to be mobile, you need rhythm, you need timing. Do you understand? You need a positive mental attitude, you need to be able to concentrate. Because part of my clumsiness as well was you have to learn to concentrate, to move body parts. What happens is to dance will ground you. So my parents taught me these things. So dance to me was part of my personal development. Dance to me is part of my professional development. Do you understand? People are unaware to that fact. Cricket was. Even me playing cricket today, it gives me a positive mental attitude. It gets me to concentrate more. It gets me to relax. It's a pastime that enables me to do other things. Something that keeps me politically alert, keeps me grounded in who I am. The history of the game I study for reasons. Blue K Jazz Dance, I just want to share with people, it's just not cricket. And I created a project was to pay respect to my ancestors, to pay respect to my father, my mother. Rebirth for the Cause project talks about 110% about my legacy of leadership, my acts of achievement. How many people do projects celebrating their acts of achievement? And this is about self-marketing oneself at a time as a dancer that many people don't know. 99.9% of my involvement in UK underground jazz dance lifestyles as a trailblazer in the movements and the culture has been hidden away from people. Ruthless photographers, ruthless video makers, ruthless filmmakers, ruthless fashion designers, ruthless publishers have all hidden my documentation. But behind the scenes, I had 1%. I fought for 1%, and I'm going to share it with you. And part of it, you see it here. This is my mood board. And I'm going to share with you the lifestyle. I'm going to share with the culture and movements. Tell you what the benefits I gained from dance, which are huge. I was a very shy child. Believe me, I had atypical dyslexia symptoms for 41 years. I didn't know that I wasn't dyslexic. I had illnesses. Many people are unaware. I'm very much into dance, health and well-being. I'm very much into healthcare for people with special education needs, because people don't know stress takes down your immune system. When you got special education needs undiagnosed, which I had for 41 years, it led to me having many illnesses. And what I was using dance to replenish it. I was using sports to replenish it, to keep me confident and optimistic. So in the war, what did dance do? Dance kept people's morale and spirit high. That is what dance did for me. That's what sports did to me. I have to say to individuals, dance became a hobby and then it became a profession. Why? Because most importantly, I developed cross-training. What it was, dance was a dance sport. My dance, UK Jazz, was a dance sport, which people don't know, that we use for escapism. That was the drug. Dancing was a drug, but music was a drug. So music first you needed. We didn't depend on nobody. We went out and got music. I was recognized as an individual, as a record collector. I was recognized as a tape collector. And I was recognized of creating what is called master cut tapes. I used to splice tapes. I was an expert in splicing tapes. I used to get tapes from people and make new tapes. And people said, where did you get that? That's all from your tapes. I spliced them up. And I was known for it, then making master cut tapes. And I was known, what happened when people had a tape, they didn't want to give up a tape. And many people's house you went to, they didn't have a double tape recorder. I used to carry a double tape recorder that you can plug in with fast taping function. I used to carry it, go to friends' houses. Yeah, I've got a new tape. I said, can I get a copy? Well, I've got no tape in. I said, I've got the machine. And I put the tape in and he was just copy it, dub it fast. And I would swap tapes with it. I'd give them a tape. I said, look, I've just done this. Because everybody loved my mastercut tapes. And the tapes I created were for dancing. Because sometimes people did tapes. And what happened, if you're a dancer, you need certain music in it. There's tapes to be inspirational, to inspire you to dance. So I used to do mastercut tapes where it's about dancing. But I have not only jazz, might have reggae in it, calypso in it, this and that. That's what I did. But it was all around enabling you to practice. Then I started to do reel-to-reel, 7-hour tapes, 5-hour tapes. Yeah, when I had parties, that took a long time to do that. We didn't turn back. Then I copied them for other people. You know what I'm saying? Reel-to-reels. We had parties. We didn't have DJs because I wanted to dance. So what we did, we had reel-to-reels. And then when people came to your house, you just had music playing. And it would go into different genres of music. And again, I was known as a master reel-to-reel tape. So I had parties which are called Afro Blue parties, Afro Blue sessions. Do you understand? Because music was the drug. So what happened? How people taking crack cocaine, that's how we collected music. We had to. Because music and dance was the #1 form activity for our parents that enabled them to cope with the racism, the extreme racism they faced when they first came here in the 60s. And I told you my parents came in 61. I was born in 64. Extreme racism I've experienced from 64 to 2020. We're in COVID. What is happening? You know what's happening around the world. It's just not cricket. I've identified wearing a mask. What happens? It's causing problems. If I don't wear the mask, it causes problems. When have I had a respite? When have I had a respite from racism? You know that it's risen across the world. You have to understand racism happens across the world. So people don't understand. Blacks left the UK, went to Europe. The first time I went to Europe in 78, I faced racism and I faced beautiful people. But racism was there in Spain when I went. What bonded me to people was I was a brilliant disco dancer. And I was winning competitions with this other girl, with another girl from America, whose father was in the RAF in Britain. Her family went to a holiday into Spain. Me and her became love partners. Yeah? She was my holiday. We had a holiday love affair. Parents loved me. I loved them as an individual. But what brought us together and what brought people wanting to know us was dance. We ended up teaching loads of people from Germany, Spain. They're all everywhere. I was staying in a hotel and they were staying in the same hotel. They had hotels that discos. But the hotel I stayed in, Lorette de Mar, it had the disco that was on the longest. And each disco had disco dance competitions. So me and her was going into competitions, solos, and then had duos. So it made sense. Yo, I need a partner. Let's get together. And that's how we bonded. And then what happened was, there was people in the hotels. Said, oh, can you teach my daughter? Can you teach us? And so we're teaching people at the poolside. And the hotel owners were asking us to come to parties. All sorts of things, great things were happening. I really was a celebrity in Spain. I really was a celebrity. And I came back with a different mindset. I came back with a mindset, I've got to get a partner who can dance like I had as an individual. That story is another story, but I'm just sharing you the beauty of what dance was. It was a drug. And not only to me, other people, dance was a drug. But some other people took drugs. Some people took drinking to escape their traumas, their hardships. My parents didn't do that. They used dance. They used music. But another thing that they used, they were into church, spirituality, the Bible. So what happened was the music of John Coltrane, when that music came to me, and it came to me in 65. Coltrane has been with me since 65 to 2020. You'll hear musicians, they have albums they take out that helps them to escape this world. Coltrane's music, Alice Coltrane, John Coltrane, Sun Ra, and a few other people like Herbie Hancock, those who created spirituality, that music relates to me. So I was into spiritual music, spiritual African music, Brazilian music, Caribbean music. Do you understand? I was into these musics and they make a lot. They help me to escape from, guess what, undiagnosed dyslexia for 41 years. So I walked into university, overcoming challenges, and believe me, psychosomatic illnesses, disorders, all sorts of things have happened to me to not enable me to realize my full education. I had to break that down. In 2004, I went on an IT course. The first time I passed the GCSE because I had problems with exam anxiety. I kept failing exams, but I did well in projects, amazing projects, and that's my projects have enabled me to be seen as the artist that I am. Because it's not exams, is it? I'm great at doing projects, history projects at school, science projects. I was the leading person to do projects. But when it came to exams, this is where the failure I had due to undiagnosed dyslexia. Not that I couldn't do it, but I didn't know how to undiagnosed dyslexia. I didn't know the problems that I was facing to do exams. Have you got that? It's important. Well, I overcame them to get into university on an exceptional course. The university I went to was called Oxford Brookes. The course was 4 years old, Business, Innovation and Enterprise. It was a course for me to start a degree, and that degree was to finish with a business plan. I didn't go to do no dissertation, no consultancy. I had an idea for a business, and I needed experts to be in an expert city. Where was the city was in? The city that created the World Wide Web, Oxford. I went there because they're known for book writing. In 1 square feet, they're known as the #1 writers in the world. I'm from the city that created the computer, the first computer. They're from the city that created the first World Wide Web. I'm from the city where the most popular entertainers in 1 square foot are from Manchester. So to me, to go to that city was important because 1 in 5 is a university student. And I wanted to get knowledge. The future, in 2004 and 5, everybody had to go back into higher education or go on short courses. The reason was because people had been miseducated to think wrongly in the way they perceived how they could learn and develop themselves. So people who had been taught wrongly, who were artists like myself, all started to go on degrees, all started to do masters. They had a degree, they went and did masters because they realized the degree that they'd been given was a miseducation. People who had a masters went and did PhDs because the masters that they'd been given was a miseducation and they needed a new way to think to survive sustainably. So what came up was sustainable strategic thinking for artists came up in 2003 from the Department of Culture, Media, Sports, identified across the world that all artists have been trained inadequately in the creative culture industries. They were trained to be paupers. They weren't trained to build on the skills and knowledge that they had. Now the irony of my situation was I built on my skills, do you understand? I came from a dancer to become an arts manager, administrator. So 2005, lifelong learning was the door open for lifelong learning. I decided I wanted to learn skills around business management to add to my arts administration and business management, particularly in what you call deprived communities. I came from a deprived community. So business innovation was the best thing to learn, a degree in that. Business innovation was about learning about unknowns and knowns. That is jazz. Do you understand? So I was on the right course to become an entrepreneur. What was identified in 1998, I won an amazing award to go to Manchester Business School and got offered an opportunity to work with the consultants on the course that I was on, because I was identifying the future is storytelling. The future is learning performing arts skills. The future is the skills that dancers have. We live in a world where we do projects anywhere and anywhere. We're taught to deal with failure. And what the problem was, small business holders weren't taught to deal with failure till it came up. Dancers get trained for failure. Could they go to auditions, they do projects, and they learn to be assertive, and they learn to problem solve in projects through doing what they're doing. Do you understand? That's going to be the future. So the future has been now dance skills. Why has dance skills become more valuable in the society? Because they are the skills you need to the 21st century. Now the irony, I have been dancing all my life as a child to a man. And the irony, I created what is called my own flying solo show in 1972 as a child who was very extremely shy, as a child who basically had 3 life-threatening illnesses already, incidents. 1 had been knocked down. 1 in my school, they put my head in the toilet, they messed with me too long, they flushed water on my head, I passed out and then he died. 3, I then went to Grenada as part of my rehabilitation intervention, dropped from a raft and then he died from drowning, and I saved myself. Yeah, I saved myself. Nobody came to get me. I had to save myself as an individual. Do you understand? As an individual. So one of the key things is a dancer has to have resilience, and you must have tenacity. You must have staying power to cope with trauma while it's happening and cope after trauma. So these are the things, and that's what happens in business. You've got to have the ability to cope with trauma as it's happening, creating plans for how you're going to do it. And you do that through reviewing what you're doing. You do that through getting coaches. You do that through mentors. That is the foundations to being a professional dancer. You won't get coaching. I had a coach. I had agents. I had mentors. I had advisors to direct me to do this and do that. So example, many of the UK jazz dancers went to the commercial world. I had a teacher born in 1888, died in my hands in 1991. I was with him from 1984 to 91. 7 years, he was my coach, mentor. He was part of the jazz movement, came to Britain in 1934. He's a seaman. He was in the first ever Afro-Cubist album. He was an entertainer. He was a dancer. He was a drummer, composer, band leader. Played with some of the greatest artists ever. Was in films. He told me, don't join the commercial industry in regards to your dance. Keep with the arts. The arts will give you opportunity to raise the prestige, the status and profile of your art. Commercialization bastardizes your art. So when you look at it, it's no longer art form because you're seeking commercial gains. And the commercial industry will water down what you're doing before long. It won't have these credentials of underground. I've kept the underground element going, the learning, the thinking, development, still, and became an artist. But first I was an activist. And that goes back to what I said to you before. My parents taught me to be politically alert. My community did. My art form, studying jazz, bebop, cool, modern, swing, these were all politically motivated music. Do you understand? As a music, particularly bebop, modern, and cool. These music came because of the oppression that we face as free people. I became an activist and started to use my art, like many artists, as a voice to raise the prestige, the profile of us as people, share our excellence, to share our professionalism, to share our creative thinking on its highest level, to identify that we are independent thinkers, learners and developers, which I am. As I said, it's just not cricket. What's cricket is basically me creating Rebirth for the Cool. Rebirth for the Cool, part of it is sharing. I'm a forward-thinking person, progressive learner. Why? Because I'm using technology. This is my iPad. When I got the Dega iPad, it allowed me to record my diary of my learning. You're in the dance lab. Years ago, people never seen my dance lab. Years ago, I did my dance lab, and what happened? I had a robbery. Not cricket. I had a 3-story house, all the records, all my resources. I created a school in Bedfordshire where I was going to have a dance school, a movement school that was going to have cross-training, sports and dance. I was the first dancer to change Bedfordshire. The reason was there was only 2 males there. And I went there. That last male, the male that was there, he was a gymnast, but he went there very early on. He compromised himself too much to compromise in peer pressure, taking drugs, going for drinking late nights. I did not do that. I'm into health and well-being and dance. So I didn't get into drugs. When people offer me, no, it's not for me. Drink, no. Eating badly, no. I brought everything. I brought my own yearly training out there. What I did Sunday to Sunday. So every Sunday, no matter what I did, I went for a 10-mile run. And I eventually got people to be doing the 10-mile run with me or working themselves up. So I had a space where we ran around and broke it down to 3 sections. New runners, you're going to do 3 miles. Then you can have medium runners, you're doing 6 miles. Then you have advanced runners, you're going to do 10 miles. They're all in the same space. I was controlling that. Every Sunday, 12 o'clock, this is what we're going to do. We do exercises, then you go for your run. Then I had something I did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So Sunday to Sunday I had a rota. I went swimming every day. I was at Bedfordshire College, 89 to 91. I just brought my whole lifestyle. I brought my whole culture and the movements. I show people my movement. I'm into theatre. I'm into dance. I'm into studying body function, especially the function of the brain, how it works, etc., etc. I'm into creating personal training for people, because that's what dancers do. Each dancer is different. Each dancer's leg is different. So one of the things I talked about, why the skills are different, because every dancer has their own personal development plan. Every business has their own personal plan. Every student has a personal development plan. Only 2005 was it introduced compulsory into universities to start teaching personal development planning, self-evaluation reports, doing reflection on sports, your development. I was doing that as a child who had been bullied, nearly been killed from the age of 8 years old. I had to do a self-reflective report on what I was going through. I had to do diaries, secret diaries. Do you understand? I had a diary in the school, but I had a diary at home that was a secret diary that recorded bullying, how did you feel? Because I've gone through trauma. I had a counsellor. who was my academic coach from the age of 8 to 26, called Sir Roy Blackman. He was dark like me, and it was important that he was dark, because dark-skinned children were identified in society as dumb, and I was acting like a dummy, unaware I wasn't a dummy, I was dyslexic, but I didn't know that. I was made to feel ashamed. When I met him, he made me not feel ashamed, because he told me how he felt. He told me, this is, you can achieve anything. If dark skin's stopping you, then you can achieve something. And when you see someone else that looks like you, a role model that looks like you, then you can achieve things. He was a cricket player himself. He played at university, he played cricket, he played sports. So we talked about physiology, we talked about psychology, we talked about philosophy. Because he wanted to be a doctor and he ended up being a teacher. So the irony of my life was I wanted to be an RAF. First of all, I wanted to be a barrister and cricket player like Constantine Leary. Then I wanted to be like Robeson. Robeson, the singer. He was a lawyer, but he became an actor, singer, activist. So was Constantine Leary, an activist. So the word activist was, they all had that. My teacher called Sir Roy Blackman, I said my academic coach from 8 years old to 26, he was an activist. Yeah, well, I became an activist. Each of the teachers I've ever had were all activists, but I added the artist part, and I'm still an artist. It's just not cricket, people, but it is cricket, because I've got an iPad today and I got access to social media. Blue Cage Jazz Dance out. Take it easy.